My name is Kristi Borglum. I am a partner here at Moneta, and one of my favorite types of clients to work with is those at the executive level within usually corporations. Most executives I work with are incredibly good at their jobs. Their equity compensation, the tax planning, and their benefits, sometimes not so much. Trust me, it's not because these individuals aren't smart. They're highly intelligent. Often it's because they don't have the capacity to dedicate the resources and time that might be required to make a dedicated plan. And it's not just the paycheck, right? You get this paycheck, but there's so many different elements of your compensation. It's equity awards that vest on a schedule you didn't choose. It's bonuses that pay out and may incur a huge tax bill when you hadn't planned for it. It's enrollment decisions that have to be made well in advance, and you can't go back once you've missed those windows. Most often, this can feel highly overwhelming, and it's hard to know where to go next. That gap can really add up over time, and there are opportunities to have all of these dedicated intentions come together in a beautiful plan. The good news is, once you really understand all of the different benefits, how they're coordinated, how they work together, and how they can help your family succeed, it's not as complicated as it may seem, and it's going to feel really good once you see it in action. That moment of pause where it's just, what do I do from here? How does this all fit together? What am I not thinking of? You don't know what you don't know. Well, when executives receive equity awards, as an example, those vest based on schedules that you certainly don't choose. And it varies. There are certain types of awards where once they're vested, there are windows of when you can choose to exercise. Even that depends on what your goals are. It depends on where the stock price is now and where you think it might go and when those options might expire. There's different types of awards that vest and pay out immediately, and you literally have no decision, no choice on what this price is at that time, what your tax situation looks like that year, and how this is additive to that. So there's a lot of variables that they just don't have control over. So executive withholding on normal compensation might be different than their bonuses or even the withholding that occurs on equity awards as they're paid out. In addition to that, a lot of executives might have a dual working spouse. And so when your withholding is set, even if you're focused on your individual income, that's not going to factor in the income from other sources, which could be a spouse or even other sources of employment. They don't talk. Employers don't talk together. And so it's really easy for the withholding to be far lower than is required and have huge tax surprises come April, not just a tax surprise in the balance owed, but actually could have an underpayment penalty because you should have been paying more in throughout the year. A lot of executives, especially if things aren't going as smoothly as they hope at their current employer, might seek an executive position elsewhere. And it's really easy to remember, this is how much I make in my base salary. And so potentially you're starting to have conversations about a different role. What is often missed is some of the awards and equity packages that you receive as an executive. Again, they have different vesting schedules, and they also have different stipulations if you leave based on, different factors. So a lot of times you might be leaving equity on the table if you're switching positions, and that can be negotiated into your new offer with a new employer. But if you're not aware of those schedules, if you're not aware of what's coming up, how are you coming to the table to bring that information? And there's a lot that can go into that, not just with the funds, but the taxes. So there's so much to think about, and it's a huge opportunity if you're an executive and you're considering switching jobs to really go in with that confident and know what you're valued at. We're all passionate about the work we do if you're lucky. And I think executives are even more so in that camp. They are focusing day in and day out on growing the business, on improving the lives of the staff that they work with, and ultimately increasing the stock price. So it's natural for them to feel very confident about the work they're doing, and that's clearly made them successful. And so it's very easy and very common when I see executives continue to hold on to that company's stock. Maybe they've received it through various equity awards. Maybe they've even purchased it on their own. And again, they're confident in the growth. That can add up quickly. And that gap and the single stock concentration can get out of hand before recognizing it. So it's not uncommon for executives to come in with 10, 15, 20, even more % of their portfolio in the company that they work for. And that's just, in our opinion, more risky than is likely necessary. There's clearly a lot of upside there, which is great. And there's strategies around how to diversify that in a prudent manner. And at the same time, things could go a different direction. And so you just have to be mindful and intentional about building that stock concentration and how you're going to divest of it. Once I sit down with a client and I'm able to see the full picture, all of the various elements of their compensation and everything else with their financial plan, there's typically 3 things that really move the needle. The first one is knowing when their cash flow is going to come in throughout the year. Perhaps just their everyday living, or there's a larger goal or expense that they want to accomplish that year. They need to understand when the cash is coming through and plan accordingly. The second is certainly tax planning. Oftentimes, we need to be thinking about how much clients are required to pay in throughout the year in order to avoid underpayment penalties. Year to year, that's going to change based on variable compensation. Sometimes we're going to be seeking to pay in 110% of the prior year if their income this year is expected to be significantly higher. Other times, we're going to be paying in 90% of the current year, which requires a lot more planning. The key here is to be proactive and look at it multiple times in the year. And the third piece is certainly during open enrollment periods. There are some elections, like deferred compensation as an example, that has to happen the prior year before you even know what that variable compensation is going to look like. So it might not be perfect, but if you're intentional and you plan for it, it's certainly going to pan out a lot better than it had you not looked at it at all. There's a lot to potentially untangle when the complexity is compounded over years. I think oftentimes that can be, again, that single stock concentration. So clients have earned awards over time. They don't even know sometimes how much exposure they've built. Sometimes the tax ramifications and impact is a surprise. Maybe they receive a really strong performance share unit that was built over the last 3 years of performance, and it was far more positive than they realized. Maybe at the same time, they had a really strong bonus from last year, and they decided to exercise a stock option. All of that can add up really quickly and just create tax surprises. There's also things like deferred compensation can be a great tool to defer some taxes at a later time that would be more beneficial. Single stock concentration is one of the common strategies that gets missed, and it just gets big fast. Some of that is executives receive these awards for a number of years. And if that stock price has gone up over time, some of those earlier grants were received with a very low cost basis. So even if executives get to the point where they realize they have too much exposure to their company stock and they're ready to diversify and they want to take advantage of that growth, sometimes the tax consequences are highly impactful. And so it just has to be a well thought out strategy. You're not going to say, okay, I'm leaving the company, I'm ready to retire, and I'm ready to sell everything. That's going to push you up into a really high tax situation quickly. And so it's all about setting the intent and having a plan going into it. And the earlier you can establish that, the more successful you're likely to be. So making decisions based on each element of your compensation is a start. And when you make decisions or plan based on all elements of your compensation, the differences can be compounded and just make things far easier in the future. For example, your paycheck, your salary is going to be steady. Essentially, everything else might not be. Your equity, your bonuses, when these awards pay out, and your overall cash flow situation can be all over the map. And so again, it's not about being perfect. It's about optimizing those decisions for the best potential outcome and knowing how those decisions impact all the other elements of your financial plan. If you're noticing you're in this position as an executive and there's various elements to your compensation and you're recognizing that you're probably not giving it the attention it needs, the first thing I want you to do, have a conversation with someone within HR. There are people within your organization that understand how this all works, but you might not have been really shared the full picture and how it actually applies to you. So start there just to make sure you're remembering all of these great benefits that you might have. From there, if it's complex and you know you need a little bit more help, I'd love to have a conversation. This is something we help executives with each and every year. And it's pretty beautiful to see it all come together and the impact it can have on people's peace of mind and eventually their long-term financial success.